This week on the Hollywood and Toto podcast, we mock The View and we dream of the very best View episode possible. It could happen. We hear from the stars gathered at the Mr. Birchum premiere in Los Angeles, including Adam Carolla, Megyn Kelly, and much more. And I recall what Jamie Foxx did to make sure he looked and sounded just like Ray Charles for the great 2004 movie, Ray.
Welcome to the Hollywood and Toto podcast. Entertainment news and reviews without the woke Hollywood narrative. Free speech, free expression. Now that's entertainment. And here's your host, award-winning film critic, Christian Toto.
Before we kick things off, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the Hollywood and Toto podcast. We've got new episodes each Wednesday, got some bonus episodes planned as well. And if you like what you hear, if you can give us a 5-star review over at iTunes, or maybe just a 4.5 if you're feeling a little surly. Every kind word helps, and we appreciate it. I need The View this week. I really do. It's been a while since we've made fun of the dumbest show on TV, and this week Sunny Hostin made it easy for me to do just that. Oh, thank you, Sunny. You're always thinking of me. You know, she might be the most partisan part of that show, and that's saying something. And of course, she's weighing in recent days on the ongoing Trump trial in New York City, and she was on the scene with a first-hand report. Oh my gosh, it's like Christmas and Easter all in one. But of course, her commentary was pretty batty, and not so batty as to get kicked off the show, but so batty that some of her View co-hosts were like, "Really? Really?" But she would not be stopped. Nevertheless, she persisted, to embarrass both her and the show.
Sunny was when she was sitting there. So what did you hear, Sunny?
I was in the courtroom again.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Yes, thank you. Thank you. What I want to do is give a little color to the courtroom because a lot of people are...
Redo that.
No. Little color. I mean that literally and figuratively. Because a lot of people are reporting what was said in the courtroom, right? But no one has really reported about what you see when you're actually there. And I had said the other day that he appeared orange in an unnatural way. I'd never seen anyone that orange before. I now have access to binoculars in the courtroom, and so I'm using the binoculars.
What, is it such a big courtroom?
Yes, it's a huge courtroom, and they have a camera directly on Donald Trump because we are behind him, so we can't see his face, but we can see his face on the screen. So while other reporters are zooming in on the documents, I'm zooming in on him.
Okay. Is this your serious legal analysis?
Yes, it really is. It really is, because people have been reporting that he is asleep. He is not asleep. He's enraged. And that's why I think he's so orange, because I think it's red underneath. I saw him during Michael...
What's The View going to talk about when Trump finally exits the scene? But maybe a better question is this. Can you imagine their reaction if Trump beats Biden come November? That show could have the biggest ratings ever. And I got to say, I will be watching with popcorn. Here's your movie trivia question of the week. In just a few days, we'll get Back to Black. It's a biopic of the late singer Amy Winehouse, whose life tragically ended at 27. But it's just the latest musical biopic we've gotten from Hollywood, and they often score pretty well at the box office. The Bob Marley one did quite well just a few months ago. Last year's Whitney Houston biopic, not so much. But generally speaking, they get some attention, maybe some award season love, so it's no surprise they keep making them. But to me, it reminds me of the best of the bunch. That was Ray with the oh-so-talented Jamie Foxx. Now, I have to say, I'm so glad Jamie Foxx is feeling better. I don't know what he went through from a medical perspective. He hasn't really talked about it, but we need him on the screen. Super, super talented guy. But the director of that movie asked Foxx to do this to his face to prepare for the role. It wasn't easy, but Foxx did what he was told. And, of course, there was a benefit. He scored an Oscar for his performance. What did the actor do to help him prep for the part? The answer? At the end of the show. Once upon a time, I chatted up all the stars in Los Angeles. I used to cover the movie junket scene for the Washington Times, and that meant I would fly to LA every few months to interview some of the biggest stars around when their movies were coming out. Met Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, Cher, Michael Douglas, Kurt Russell, you name it, I met them. I mean, it was just kind of a fun time, I have to say. But that was then, and I was part of a team, and now I'm an independent journalist. And of course, post-COVID, I don't even know if those junkets exist, but I know that there are some virtual junkets that they have now where you could ask some questions of the big stars. I have to say, I just don't bother. You know, the way I see it, if you send a really tough but fair question to the PR team that's running the chat, is there any chance in the world it's going to get to the actor in question? I don't think so. But you know what? Last week for me was kind of like old times. I covered the world premiere of Mr. Birchum. It's the Daily Wire Plus series based on Adam Carolla's radio character from the 90s. He was a woodshop teacher, and that character helped him crack the LA radio scene. And of course, he was able to bond with the show's co-host at the time, a guy named Jimmy Kimmel. Whatever happened to that guy? Of course, a bromance was born. They made The Man Show. They're still friends today, despite their differences politically speaking. But today, Mr. Birchum's shtick, his old-school approach, his retro manners, oh my gosh, it's the perfect antidote to our woke age. Just take a listen.
Rule number 1, no phones in the wood shop. Fish it out after class.
I found some really great school uniform options to avoid misgendering.
Ooh, what about their allergies? Maybe those theys could be lactose intolerant.
No, we can't say intolerance. We have a zero tolerance policy for mentioning intolerance.
When I was a kid, men were men. Now everyone's wrapped up in feelings.
Real men stuff feelings down with red meat, cigarettes, and violence.
So I got a chance to work the red carpet. Actually, it was a wooden carpet because, of course, Mr. Birchum's a carpenter of sorts, and I thought that was rather appropriate. And the first person I talked to was Daily Wire superstar Brett Cooper. Now, she has a show. It's called The Comment Section on YouTube. Boy, that was a smash from the jump. Just amazing. And, of course, now she's starring in Mr. Birchum as the teacher's unwoke daughter. Pretty good role, by the way. Here's Brett breaking down her YouTube fame and what she told herself she'll do now that she's got some fame under her belt.
You know, you jump into the world of YouTube, and it's like very challenging. It's a steep climb, except not for you. You just killed it right away. Talk a little bit about that instant journey and how it changed you. I mean, imagine that sort of changes your career in a way.
It did, for sure. I mean, everything changed. It was relatively overnight. I mean, within 5 months, we had 1 million subscribers. But in the normal way people say, overnight success takes 10 years. I've been working in Hollywood for 10 years plus. I have been working on my communication skills, my storytelling skills, my comfort in front of the camera for so many years, and this felt like the perfect combination of everything that I love, which is my values and common sense and truth, while also loving being in front of the camera and telling stories and communicating with an audience through that medium. And so it felt very, very natural. Obviously, the fame was a new thing, and with that comes a great responsibility, and I want to always make sure that I have integrity. I genuinely love my audience, and I want them to always feel like they can trust me, that they love the content. I'm always trying to be better for them with everything that we're doing, whether it's my show or Birchum or Pendragon or Snow White and the Evil Queen, whatever it is. I want to make sure that we are always leveling up for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Comedian Tyler Fischer, of course, was just on the show a few weeks back, and he is another part of the Mr. Birchum ensemble. He plays Carponzi. He's the super touchy-feely guy who is going to be the show's nemesis, no doubt. And, of course, any chance to talk to Tyler, I take. And he shares a little bit about the origin of Carponzi. And, of course, Tyler, like this particular person, is a character.
Tell me about your character. And did you base it on anyone, or was it a kind of a compilation of a whole bunch of people?
Carponzi. I've been doing this kind of like woke man bun character online for a couple of years who shames everybody for not getting the vaccine or not having enough people of color in their movie. So I pulled from that guy, and he doesn't want anybody to have any fun. He's there to make sure everything is equal and equitable and diverse. Yeah. And his point point is no fun.
There you go.
Shut down the party.
You know, what I love about your humor is it's never mean-spirited. I imagine you bring that into the equation. You're not really making him the villain, but he's just is who he is. Is that fair to say? Or,
yeah, he really, like any classic, social justice warrior, they believe that they're doing the right thing. Yeah. So he thinks he's the hero. And so everything he does is for the good of humanity.
Excellent. Of course, the man himself, Adam Carolla, was on the scene, and I had him look back at the show's creation and also his philosophy behind comedy. You know, I've been listening to Adam Carolla for, decades now. It's aging both of us. But, when you think about what he does, what he says, he shares a lot of life wisdom. I guess you can call it life hacks these days. There's just something more to his humor of late. It's not just yuck stuff. His jokes stick to your ribs, and he helps explain why here.
I know you're not a sentimental guy, but by goodness, I heard you talking to Zuby about the dawn of your career, and this is your perseverance made it happen. Mr. Birchum was sort of part of it. Now we're here with a TV show about it. I mean, even you, a tough and rough and tumble guy, must feel a little verklempt in a way. I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth, but talk about it.
Verklempt is not a word that's going to be used in this crew. Although Ben, maybe. Yeah, I'm not a sentimental guy, but I did start the character 30 years ago, and it is kind of interesting that, I mean, I'm constantly telling people to give up on their dreams, but I'm not really the right person to say anything about that because I've been with this guy for 30 years, and, in that time, when I started this character, I was a carpenter who was broke, living in a rental house with 3 other guys driving a pickup truck, and here we are. I brought my 18-year-old daughter with me, so you can never say never with this story, that's for sure.
One last question. I feel like there's an undercurrent with your work and your commentary. It's not just funny, it's not just observational. There's life guidance, there's life skills. I mean, I heard you talk about the dawn of this on Zuby, and I want my kid to hear that lesson. I want people to understand that. Do you consciously think about that, or is it just kind of part of who you are now?
I've always been a big proponent or fan of have the comedy, have the message, and then there should be a lesson somewhere in there. It should ring true. There should be something that makes sense, And otherwise, I don't think it. I never liked just slapstick comedy or sort of knock jokes or things that just exist in a bubble. I always like I like a little bit of nutrition with my meal, and I didn't want it to just be sort of cotton candy. So I thought if there was a way to be funny and sort of send a message, then that would be the best of both worlds.
And we get that with the Birchum, I assume?
I'd like to hope so, yeah.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Some actors just have amazing pipes, and comedian Alonzo Bodden, I think he checks that box. Funny guy, great voice, and of course he's also part of the Mr. Birchum family. He plays Mr. Birchum's best friend in the show. But in this conversation, he shares what he has in common with Adam, and also why he doesn't buy into the whole cancel culture label. Now, I have to say, I disagree pretty aggressively, but, you're on the red carpet, you can't have a debate there. It's more about getting the first impressions from the stars, so bear with me here, but I think what he had to say was still interesting.
You too.
I was reading about your background. You and Adam both didn't start as comedians. He was working carpentry, airline mechanic?
Yeah, airplane mechanic.
Yeah. Does that maybe help your bond, the fact that you kind of have a simpatico relationship in a way?
Back when the first time I met Adam, in the first interview we did, he talked to me about aircraft and being a mechanic because we both started, working with our hands, building stuff. So there's a bond there. We both like tools. We both like cars. I like motorcycles. I never got him to convert. He's stuck with cars. Gotcha. But the gearhead thing we have in common, the tools and stuff like that. Yeah.
One thing I'm hearing from different people is that a traditional network wouldn't go with the show, which is not a slam on the show. It might be a slam on the traditional networks. Talk about that. Why can't we have a Mr.
I don't know. I'm not going to say that because it's like that whole thing of All in the Family wouldn't be produced today. Yeah, it would. People aren't so dumb that they would think Archie Bunker's really who he's playing. You know what I mean? So I don't buy into they wouldn't. I mean, listen, he sold it to who he sold it to. He did what he did, and it's coming out, which is great. But I don't know, what a network standard is. Listen, I did Last Comic Standing. They told us we violated standards and practices every episode.
Breaking rules. Hey, nice to meet you.
Tyler Fischer is a great impressionist, but so is Kyle Dunnigan, and Kyle is part of the Mr. Birchum family as well. Had to ask him a little bit about his YouTube videos, though. He really makes some incredible clips. He uses his face swapping technology to put the star's face on his, kind of an overlay. It is odd, it's a little bizarre, but it's also very funny. And he's one of the best at making fun of President Biden. Very few people touch the president these days, but not Kyle Dunnigan. But it's not cruel, and he also definitely hits both parties. So I asked him to explore a little bit about that and find out what makes him tick.
Everything about it's great. Talk about the show and what drew you to it and about your character. We haven't seen it yet, so we're kind of...
They asked me to do it. That's what drew me, because no one asked me really to do anything. So that immediately drew me in. And I said yes right away.
Gotcha.
And then I was really happy with what they wrote and everything. Yeah. So that just turned out okay.
One of the things that I love about your work is that you make fun of everybody. I mean, your Biden is incredible. And then Ben Shapiro comes along and Tucker Carlson. Is that on? Do you kind of aim for that kind of balance, or what brings you that?
Yeah, I'm not really a political person, so I just try to go for jokes, really, and I try not to be too mean-spirited. I make fun of people, I guess, but I usually like the people I'm doing an impression of or making a skit about.
When you're working on an impression, does it kind of sink in right away? Do you need like weeks and weeks of preparation?
Some are right there, and some I really work on. And the ones I really have to work on are just, I lose them like very quickly. I think they're just not naturally into me. And there's also like people speak in like a 4-tone range. And if they're out of my range, it's very difficult. Like women I can't really do.
Yeah. Who's the toughest?
Except for Caitlyn Jenner I can do. That woman I can do.
Who's the toughest one to, like who's your biggest challenge?
GK I did, but I worked on that really hard. Like I don't even know if I could do him now.
Yeah. Excellent. Hey, nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for watching my video.
Oh, yeah. It's spectacular. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? I saw you go, who's that guy?
I did, but right when you looked at me.
Listen, I don't know who I am either. Hey, Brett, nice to meet you. Yeah? I do impressions, which I never did, to be honest. I did when I was a kid. And so I get impressed girls, and then I stopped because my manager, stand-up guy, was like, don't do impressions of that.
Sage Steele was a pretty big name over to ESPN, but then she said a couple of things that she shouldn't say. And by that, I don't mean anything outrageous or cruel or wrong. She just had opinions that weren't in line with Team ESPN. And of course, they fired her, or at least squeezed her out. I forget the exact details, but she's gone. She was not wanted at the company, which is ridiculous because she's a very talented, smart lady. And, maybe a few years ago, she'd stay unemployed for a while. Maybe she'd be begging for gigs, maybe changing careers, but not now. We're living in a better time. She was on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast a few months back, and he was so impressed by her. He said, hey, would you like your own podcast? I'm starting a network of shows. I'd like you to be a part of it. And she said, yes, and thank you. And she shares that journey here with me on the red carpet. And she also talks about, well, I guess I open up a little bit myself about my political disagreements on the home front. See what you think.
I really am enjoying this new phase of your career. I mean, obviously, Bill Maher, the new podcast, now this show. Talk about sort of this new chapter.
Thank you.
I mean, it couldn't be more exciting and creative and hopeful, I would think.
That's a great
As an outsider.
No, thank you. I could never have imagined I would be standing here tonight because if I still were in a different industry, a different company, I would never have been allowed to do something like this. So there's been so many blessings that have come from a tough situation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change a thing. The ups, the downs, all of it. But there's a whole world out there that I wasn't aware of. So it's been really special. I've met some great people, and this is going to be really special tonight.
Yeah. You know, Bill Maher has done a great job of reaching across the aisle. He's left of center, but, he's willing to talk to everyone. And I get the same from you. Would that be part of your podcast moving forward, where you talk to everybody and break bread with people and don't judge and just kind of, it feels like that's like a necessary thing right now.
I think that's what we are lacking in this country. It's amazing. People put you in a box. They stereotype you, and it's like, oh, if you make one comment or send one tweet, then you're this or that. And it's like, stop it. Stop the judging. That's what I love about this show. When Bill asked, and I said, okay, how much say do I get? How creative can I be? And as far as asking questions, and he's like, you do whatever the hell you want. That's Bill Maher. Again, for the fact that Bill Maher decided to hire someone who's right of center, speaks volumes about who he is and what he believes with free speech, etc. But I love it so far. I've had such a different variety of guests, and on whether it's actors or athletes or on the politician side. My show with RFK Jr. drops tomorrow on Wednesday.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I had Nicole Shanahan, his running mate, last week, and maybe I think a week from now it'll be Sharon Osbourne, Dana White. So my goal is not though about issues and resumes. It's about who are you as a person? And I think when we can look at people as humans, not in these boxes, that's when we will really begin to make progress as a country.
Yeah, I'm a conservative. My wife's liberal. We had 19 years of marriage, so we're trying to live it out ourselves.
Good for you.
Yeah, but 2016 was not good.
But you have survived.
We've survived.
Now, if you can get through that in 2020, then you're good. Congratulations.
That's right.
How long? 20 years of marriage?
19.
Let's round up. 20. Nice to meet you.
Let's wrap things up with the great Megyn Kelly, and I don't use that term loosely. I really think she's been an exceptional addition to the podcast space. I think she's smart. I think she's honest. Yes, she's right-leaning, but I think she's a straight shooter, and we get very few of them these days. It seems like more and more voices, both on the left and the right, are losing their way, maybe going in a direction that seems less than exemplary, and not Megyn Kelly. She's been more famous than she's ever been, I think, and she's doing it right. So she is a voice on the show. She plays Wendy, who's also Mrs. Birchum, and she shared why she took the gig, why she was nervous about it, but she also weighs in on our fractured media age. Now, let me just say, when you can have Megyn Kelly talk to you about media bias and where we go from here, you listen. And that's exactly what I did.
You've done it all, but not comedy and not voiceover work. Talk about that transition. You're obviously doing it. It worked, but was it a challenge? Did you have to study a different technique? What was that like?
Well, I was pretty convinced I would not be able to do this at all, and I was very confused as to why they wanted me. But it seemed like a fun thing to try, and I love Adam. He asked me to do it, so I said, all right, I'll do it. I'll do it for Adam. But I did make them promise me that if we heard the first episode and I stunk, we would pull it, then they would find somebody else. But it was okay.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? You to get the bug now? You want to do more projects like this, or just stick to what I do?
I'm really wondering where my Hollywood star is. I pulled up here, went on apparently my reputation has preceded me. No, I don't have the bug. I like doing news, but this is a fun side gig, and it's really cool to be around the comedy genius of these guys. I have a newfound appreciation and respect for what they do. It's so special to be able to take lines in a script that you see are funny, put your own spin on them, and bring them to life around other talented actors. Watching them work has been my favorite part of this.
Quick non-comedy question. I feel like there are so few voices we can trust in the media right now. It's very frustrating trying to get to the truth of things. Do you find that as well? And where do you go to find really accurate information? Because I feel like the sources are dwindling, honestly.
You have to work very hard for it, unfortunately. Harder than people have time to work. Right? They have jobs, they have families, they could need to worry about. It's one of the biggest, it's one of the greatest sadnesses of what's happened to my industry. And look, I think Trump was a blessing to the media because they were hanging by a thread in their long-term existence and their bias, which was killing them off day by day. And he took a machete to them. You know, it was death by 1,000 cuts, and then he brought the machete, and it was a mercy in some ways. And now people know what they're dealing with. They've been outed, and so they can make smart choices about who to trust. I do think the future of news is individual relationships, not trusting big organizations that have to please Pfizer or whomever it is. Finding a person or a couple people you can trust. It's one of the things I like about my lane, podcasts and digital and YouTube, where, I know a lot of people listen to the show every day. They listen to it on 2.0 because then they'll also listen to Ben on 2.0, which is, it can be done. I do it.
Isn't Ben already on 2.0?
He's already at 2.0. It takes some adjustment, but after a while you can get used to it. Anyway, my point is, people are getting smarter because the bias has been exposed, and that's a good thing. Net, it's a win.
Well, I'm not sure when I'll be back on the red carpet, but that Mr. Birchum soiree didn't disappoint. The show, of course, is playing right now on Daily Wire Plus. Check it out. All right, let's get back to that trivia question. Jamie Foxx was willing to do whatever it took to become Ray Charles for the movie. He actually met Ray Charles before the superstar's passing. They agreed that he would be a fine choice. I imagine being a fly on the wall in that conversation. Just been absolute chills. But the actor shed 30 pounds from his frame to play Ray Charles. And I don't think Jamie Foxx has ever been heavyset in any sense. So I'm sure he was really emaciated for the role just to kind of have that Ray Charles look. And the director of the film, Taylor Hackford, also suggested one more tweak that he might want to check out. He asked Fox to glue his eyes shut for large parts of the day on certain days to approximate what the blind singer experiences. Now, actors do the craziest things for their craft. They lose weight, they gain weight, they pack on muscle, they do all the different things. But I'm going to guess it was all worthwhile when Jamie Foxx did that because, boy, when you hear your name called on Oscar night, it makes everything so much better. Well, that's it for the show this week. Thank you to Radio America for having me as part of their fine podcast lineup. And while I have your attention, I hope you'll drop by HollywoodInToto.com. It is updated 7 days a week with news, reviews, and all the commentary that needs to be said about the crazy world of Hollywood. And like this show, it is the right take on entertainment. See you next time.